I have gotten every single job that I have applied for, even when I had zero experience. But in 2024, there's actually a new way of getting jobs and crushing the interviews. And it's actually what hundreds of our own students use to be able to crush the interview, get the job, and make sure they actually perform. And by the way, hundreds of our students also have zero experience. So in the next 10 minutes, I'm gonna show you exactly how to win over the interviewer with 8 simple tricks. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. So the first part of actually crushing an interview is before the interview even starts. And there's a couple tips that you have to know in order to actually appear really professional and really, really good on that interview. So before the interview, you need to make sure you have actual nice clothes on. There is so many people that just don't present themselves very well on the interview. Maybe they wear a hoodie like this, or they just wear baggy clothes or whatever the case may be. Come to the interview prepared. Come to the interview professional, and I promise you that will be an amazing start right at the beginning. Maybe wear a button-up shirt, wear some pants. Maybe they can't even see the bottom half of you, but at least they can see the top half of you. Wear a nice shirt and be able to impress the interviewer right off the bat without saying a word. Now, the second tip, especially with remote closing, you're more than likely going to be on a Zoom call. And in that Zoom call, you need to make sure that your background is actually clean. If it's not clean, make sure you actually put the zoom setting on to blur the background. That's super simple, super easy, super effective. So that way there's not a big mess behind you and everything is still professional. And then of course, tip number 3, make sure you have your hair done, cut, whatever the case may be, however that applies to you. Make sure you have it nice and clean. The same way as your clothes and the same way as your background, when you present yourself without saying a word in the first 5 seconds and you have all of this done, you come across as very professional and someone who's serious about actually getting this role. So, once you have your appearance right, you have to be able to introduce yourself properly. And there's a super easy hack for this that most people just don't do. So, when you're introducing yourself, how should you come off? It's really simple and really easy. Be confident. That's it. Now, I know that's a lot easier said than done, so I'm gonna give you a couple tips to actually being more confident, or at least appearing more confident. These tips include this. If you're on a Zoom call, which you more than likely will be, you need to look directly at the camera to show that you're not afraid of making eye contact. And that eye contact is super huge because that immediately shows that someone is confident. Another tip for this is make sure that when you're speaking, you're really, really excited about what it is that you're talking about, because that automatically adds excitement to your tonality, and of course it adds confidence because of the simple fact that you're excited about what you're talking about. And most importantly, think about the words you say before you say them. It's very important that when you say something, you are very confident at saying that. So whether it's an answer or a question, you say it with authority and pure confidence. But in order to do that, you have to be very conscious of what you're saying and the words that you're using. So take time. If they ask you a question, process it and then answer. There's nothing wrong with a pause, but don't say am or but because that's not that confident. So now after that, you're coming off like you are lit. But how do you keep that energy and not make mistakes? So the simple way to keep that energy and make sure that you're not making mistakes is make sure and not use one-word answers anytime you're asked a question on an interview. One-word answers are really bad because it shows a multitude of different things. Maybe it shows a little bit of laziness. Maybe it shows that you just don't really care enough to answer. And this is a bad sign for the interviewer because if you want the job and they want to give you the job and you're answering like, yes, no, maybe. It just seems lazy. It seems like you don't want to be there, and they're going to cut that interview short really quick. So in order to not make mistakes and stay excited and stay good at the interview, just avoid one-word answers. But that doesn't mean answer something for the next 10 minutes. Still, give a sentence or two, be short, concise, and sweet, but don't give a one-word answer. And I promise you, it's going to be way harder to make mistakes, and you are going to crush the interview because of that. So one of the biggest questions that I always had was, when do I get to actually interview the company? That way I can make sure I even want to work for this company in the first place. So of course, when you want to interview the company, you have to ask your own questions. But you're still in the middle of this interview, and it's very important to stay patient and not ask questions until either one, you have been asked, hey, do you have any questions? Or two, until the end of the interview or near the end of the interview. Once the floor is open for you to ask questions, go ahead and ask them and do your own little interview. But if the floor is not open for you to ask questions, never ever cut off the interviewer just to ask a question for yourself. Because if you do this, this puts a really bad taste in the interviewer's mouth and it's not gonna do well for you. Now, I do have one quick tip for the end of the interview that is super essential for you to know. So what if the interviewer is ending the call and they haven't scheduled a follow-up call or a role play for you to do after? If the interviewer does not schedule you for a role play or a second interview, what you need to do is actually super simple, and be prepared right now to take notes because I'm about to give it to you. Here's how to handle it. If it's okay with you, I would actually love to hop on a practice sales call with either you or one of your team members. If you'd like to send me over your offer or your framework, then sometime this week or next, we can go ahead and book a call in for me to follow up and do this role play. That way you know exactly what I can do and also how I'm gonna be coachable by making sure and following your framework. Does that sound fair? Now this is gonna put you at a really big authority because it shows that you're already closing the interviewer, which is great, and a lot of interviewers like that. So make sure and ask this question, but of course, if you don't like the company or something went wrong in that interview, don't say that. Now, this next part is probably the hardest part of an interview as a whole. Most people have no idea how to answer one question in the interview, and it destroys all of their chances of actually being able to land the job. One of the most tricky questions that you're going to be asked on an interview, especially if you have zero experience, is the following. What experience do you have as a remote closer? Now, most people in this situation are just gonna say, I don't have any experience, unfortunately. And you're already degrading yourself when you say that. Instead, say this. I actually don't have any experience, but that's a really good thing for me and for you. And the reason why is simply because when you give me your framework, I have no bad habits coming in, so I'm gonna learn it very quickly. And number two, I'm gonna be super coachable just for you because anything you tell me, I'm gonna be able to do immediately. Is that okay with you? Immediately, what you're doing is you're putting yourself at a strong suit with zero experience. And we have so many people that have used just that line and got the job because of it. So make sure and take note of that and use that on your next interview. Now it is finally time. It is your turn to be able to interview the interviewer. But real quick, before I go into that, if you don't know who I am, I just want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this channel, which is me and Simply Close. I'm actually the owner of Simply Close, and what Simply Close is basically a bunch of modules as well as so much coaching that you're gonna get for you to be able to learn remote closing, but not only that, learn how to actually find jobs and get placed into jobs so you can succeed and start reaching your goals in 2024. So if you are interested in that, there is a link in the description below. Make sure and click that out, check it out, watch the free masterclass, and enjoy. So back to the video. Again, it is now your turn, and these are the best questions for you to ask the interviewer. One big question to ask is, what is your team culture, the goals in your team like, etc. And the reason you want to ask this question is because you want to be able to take note of this so you know exactly what the culture is, if you can fit into it, and of course, if they have a bunch of huge goals just like you do with your life. If this lines up, this is going to be super easy for you to be able to join that company, but it's also a really good question for them because they know, okay, this guy or girl has goals, has everything, and they want to know what ours are to see if they align. It's a super good question. The second question you want to ask the interviewer is, how many testimonials do you guys have as a company or case studies? The reason you want to ask this is because you want to be very, very clear on the fact that you want to work for a company that actually helps people. If they don't have any testimonials, or if they have very few and a lot of bad reviews, you might want to go ahead and end that meeting. Make sure that they have good case studies these good testimonials, so you're selling something that is actively helping people, because nobody wants to sell anything that's terrible. And then the last one here is going to be the one that impresses the interviewer the most and also gives you really good feedback on who this company is. And it looks like this. What are your goals? Where do you see the company going in the next 6 months, and how will I fit into that? That is such a great question, because you're going to figure out exactly where you fit in and how you can maximize the company. But you're also going to learn what their goals are in the next 6 months, how big the company is, and how big the company is going to get. And that is super, super huge, but it also impresses the interviewer whenever you ask a question like that, because they know exactly this guy or girl wants to fit in and they want to do a freaking exceptional job at it. So now that you know all of that, you have done everything right. You have officially crushed the interview, and now it's time for you to actually do a role play. But you have absolutely no idea how to crush that. I'm here to tell you it's way easier than you think. There's only 2 things that you need to crush the role play. Make sure at the end of the interview that you got a script and an offer sheet from that company. If they don't have a script, maybe they have a framework. Whatever the case may be, you need to get them both. And the next thing, this is the most simple part. Are you ready? The next thing is practice. You have to practice. If you don't practice the script that they give you and you don't practice the offer sheet, you are not going to crush that role play, and you're not even going to get close. You need to practice exactly what they've given you, and you also need to practice what you've learned or know. Maybe some objection handling. There's a ton of YouTube resources. Go and look it up, especially if you have 0 experience. Even better, if you've already trained with a company like ours, you're going to be able to know, okay, I know I can close. All I need is their offer sheet. And you're going to do very well, but make sure you practice, because if you don't practice, you're not going to do well. It's that simple. It's that easy. Now, I hope you found a ton of value in this video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you did find value in it and you liked it, make sure and hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next video.